Hey, Coach Renee here, Origins Parkour, and today we're gonna get into 5 exercises to increase your jump without weights. Exercise number 1, box squat to jump. The way this exercise is gonna work is you need to start from a seated position. Now, the reason that we're doing this is because most of your jumps in parkour, or in any sport really, start with an eccentric component. What does that mean? That means that before you jump, you lower yourself, usually quite quickly, and then from that lowering, you get a nice stretch reflex of your muscles and tendons that help you add to the explosive nature of the jump. So we're taking that away by starting in this seated position. Now, when you choose a bench height, you want to make sure that it's not too low and also not too high. So I don't want to be jumping from a box up here, and I don't want to be jumping from a box that is so low that I'm in a deep squat and it's going to take me more time to get that powerful takeoff. There are 3 different ways you can use this exercise. So we can do box jumps, broad jumps, or vertical jumps. Box jumps. Broad jumps. And vertical jumps. Speaking of vertical jumps, the vertical jump is an underutilized jump in parkour. In fact, we never do a pure vertical jump where we don't actually have to worry about landing on something else. So if you think about it, if you're doing a precision jump, you're usually taking off of something and then doing a tuck and an extension to try to land on another wall. Sometimes we're doing box jumps, or we're jumping up to grab something or do a flip, you name it. But with the standard vertical jump, we can just focus on getting full hip extension, knee extension, and ankle extension, otherwise known as triple extension. We can focus on all of those things reaching up without having to think so much about what we're going to land on. You can do your vertical jumps from a standing position. You can also do your vertical jumps by running into them and doing a plyometric takeoff. Exercise number 3 is the single leg standing takeoff. Now, before we get into that, I just want to make sure if you are not doing standing takeoffs off of 2 feet without any sort of structures or anything to land on, just maximizing your standing jump, make sure you do that from time to time just so you can find out, 1, how far you can jump, but also to get rid of all of the different sort of mental things that get in the way when we're practicing parkour and just experiencing maximum effort on the floor. So we're gonna do that same concept, but now we're gonna do it on a single leg. So you'll be standing on 1 leg. I'm going to load into my jump the same way I would on 2 legs by bending at my knee and my hip, swinging my arms back, and then trying to land as far forward as I can. We're gonna do this just with a 2-footed landing, because what we wanna find out from this also is if there are discrepancies leg to leg. So if you can jump further on 1 leg compared to the other. Exercise number 4 is bounding, or as we like to call it in parkour, striding. So a stride is any time that we go from one structure to another structure and we're hopping from one leg to the other. In track and field or in plyometrics, this is known as bounding. And there's actually a big difference between usually a lot of times the mistakes that we see performed in parkour and how it's done on a track. The problem with only jumping to walls, and this is a theme with a lot of the exercises we're doing today, is when you're only jumping to walls, you are concerned with the landing. When you're trying to perform powerful bounds and you're trying to get as much power as you can out of them, you cannot be as concerned with the landing. Now, it makes more sense to be concerned with the landing when we're doing parkour, because if I'm reaching for something like a railing, I don't want to miss. So we're gonna take this exercise, we're gonna do it on flat ground, and what we're gonna try to focus on, instead of reaching and landing, we're trying to wait and attack with each stride. Exercise number 5 is the depth jump. The depth jump involves us taking off of a height and then quickly attacking the ground to then jump up or as far as possible. Before we get into the depth jump, what we want to make sure we do is get lots of practice in the depth drop. So we're going to be taking off of a similar height and then making sure that when we make contact with the ground, rather than absorbing as much as possible, what we're actually trying to do is a stiffer landing where we're still making sure we bend from the knees and the hips, but we're actually resisting a bit more so that we can learn to then have a more elastic takeoff that comes after. So when we get into the depth jump, we're stepping off of that height, we're trying to quickly attack the ground, and at that point we don't really want to be so worried about how much we're absorbing, because really the focus needs to be on attacking and getting as much jump as possible. When choosing your height, typically we want to use something that is 1 meter or less, and this is just because you're going to find that when you try to get a good jump off of anything higher, you're going to find that you're going to have diminishing returns. You can also use lower heights to start your depth jump, because we can still get some good returns just off of using low heights, and then we're making sure that we're not using something so high that it's affecting our technique. So it's very important that you use targets for this exercise. If I'm doing a vertical jump, I'm trying to reach up for something. If I'm doing a broad jump, I'm trying to land to the furthest target possible. Or if I'm doing a box jump, I'm using boxes of similar heights so that I can measure my progress. If you have any questions about any of the exercises we went over today, make sure you drop us a comment. Remember to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next video. Broad jumps.